Let us pray. O Lord, we give thanks for the bounty of our province, our land, our resources, and our people. We pledge ourselves to act as good stewards on behalf of all Albertans. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill PR1, Sisters of Charity of High Prairie Amendment Act 1990. This bill will amend the name of the corporation and change the location of its head office from High Prairie to Edmonton. It's over and done.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Foothills has moved first reading of Bill number 1. Does the Assembly agree to the motion for first reading? Opposed? Carried.
Bill number PR1, the Sisters of Charity of Providence of High Prairie Amendment Act 1990, is now read a first time.
The Honourable Member for Redwater Andrew.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill PR number 2, the Edmonton Research and Development Park Authorities Amendment Act. This is a bill which will make several minor amendments to the Act and significant changes to the composition and tenure of the authority.
The Honourable Member for Redwater Andrew has moved first reading of Bill number 2, Edmonton Research and Development Park Authority Amendment Act 1990. Does the Assembly agree to the motion for first reading? Opposed? Carried.
Bill number PR2, Edmonton Research and Development Park Authority Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the Honourable Member, Mr. Zarewski, is now read a first time.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Foothills.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce on behalf of the member from Lesser Slave Lake, Ms. Pearl-Callahassan, Bill PR3, the Nietzsche Community College Act. This bill will incorporate the Nietzsche Community College and establish its objectives, powers, and other constitutional provisions.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Foothills has moved first reading of Bill number PR3, the Nietzsche Community College Act. Does the Assembly agree to this motion for first reading? Opposed? Carried.
Bill number PR3, Nietzsche Community College Act, introduced by the Honourable Member, Mrs. Black, is now read a first time.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce the Canada West Insurance Company Amendment Act 1990, Bill PR4.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Meadowlark has moved first reading of Bill PR4, Canada West Insurance Company Amendment Act 1990. Does the Assembly agree with this motion for first reading? Opposed? Carried.
Bill number PR4, Canada West Insurance Company Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the Honourable Member, Mr. Mitchell, is now read a first time.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce the bill being the Calgary Jewish Academy Amendment Act 1990, Bill PR5.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Glenmore has moved first reading of Bill PR5, the Calgary Jewish Academy Amendment Act 1990. Does the Assembly agree with this motion for first reading? Opposed? Carried.
Bill number PR5, the Calgary Jewish Academy Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the Honourable Member, Mrs. Myrosh, is now read a first time.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce on behalf of the member from Grand Prairie, Dr. Elliott, Bill PR6, the Alberta Wheat Pool Amendment Act 1990. This bill will provide for a number of changes to the Act relating to the reserves and the way in which they are dealt with, and transfers much of the control on the use of reserves and earnings from the Act to the bylaws of the company.
The honourable member for Calgary Foothills has moved first reading of Bill PR 6, Alberta Weed Pool Amendment Act 1990. Does the Assembly agree to this motion for first reading? Opposed? Carried.
Bill number PR 6, Alberta Weed Pool Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the honourable member Mrs. Black, is now read a first time.
The honourable member for St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill being the St. Therese Hospital Grey Nuns of St. Paul Amendment Act 1990.
The honourable member for St. Paul has moved first reading of Bill PR 7, the St. Therese Hospital Grey Nuns of St. Paul Amendment Act 1990. Does the Assembly agree to this motion for first reading? Opposed? Carried.
Bill number PR 7, St. Therese Hospital, Grey Nuns of St. Paul Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Grobot, is now read a first time.
The honourable member for St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce a bill being the Satnam Parmar Adoption Termination Act. This terminates an earlier adoption of a person who is now an adult. Consent of the adopting and natural parents has been filed.
The honourable member for St. Paul has moved first reading of Bill number PR 8, the Satnam Parmar Adoption Termination Act. Does the Assembly agree with this motion for first reading? Opposed? Carried.
Bill number PR 8, Satnam Parmar Adoption Termination Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Grobot, is now read a first time.
The honourable member for Redwater Andrew.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill PR 10, the La Société des Bénéfices Chérives Tax Exemption Act. And this bill provides for tax exemption for certain properties owned by the Society.
The honourable member for Redwater Andrew has moved first reading of Bill number PR 10, La Société de Bienfaisance Chérives Tax Exemption Act. Does the Assembly agree to this motion for first reading? Opposed? Carried.
Bill number PR 10, La Société de Bienfaisance Chérives Tax Exemption Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Zaruski, is now read a first time.
The honourable member for Calgary Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill PR 11, the Campbell-McLaren Foundation for Hearing Deficiencies Amendment Act 1990. This bill will amend and clarify the objectives of the foundation and the priority of application of its funds.
The honourable member for Calgary Foothills has moved first reading of Bill PR 11, the Campbell-McLaren Foundation for Hearing Deficiencies Amendment Act 1990. Does the Assembly agree with this motion for first reading? Opposed? Carried.
Bill number PR 11, Campbell-McLaurin Foundation for Hearing Deficiencies Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the honourable member Mrs. Black, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports. Introduction of special guests.
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development and Trade.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure, sir, to introduce to you and through you 69 students with 10 adults who I had the opportunity of meeting with earlier from the West Hosford Elementary School. They are joined by their teachers, Marilyn Masick, Colin Sturdy, Luba Lysak, Helen Romao, and Bev Clark is also with them, with the parents, Lorna Meldrum, Ed Woolley, Nancy Roy, and Linda Fisher, and they have a brother, one of the students with them also, Trevor Genatine. I would ask all the students, the parents, the teachers, and the brother to rise to receive the warm welcome of the Legislative Assembly.
The Honourable the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you and through you to the legislature some 41 members of the students of the Big Valley School located in the Stettler constituency. They are seated in the members gallery. They have teachers Kelly Robinson and Jean Mappin who are with them today, parents Wanda Wilkie, Judy Stoneman, Wendy Trout, Marcia Johnson, Shannon Knowles, Blanche Johnson, and Anita Mappin. I'd ask them, Mr. Speaker, to stand and be recognized by the Assembly.
The honourable member for Highwood.
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted this afternoon to introduce to you and through you to the Assembly 8 eager students from Millerville Community School. They're accompanied by their teacher, Bill Cunningham, and they're located in the public gallery. I'd ask them to stand and receive the warm traditional welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Position?
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to direct the first set of questions to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, I want to pursue a very serious matter with the Premier dealing with the alleged possibility of conflict of interest by the member for Redwater Andrew. Mr. Speaker, the Premier has tried to persuade Albertans that the member for Redwater Andrew did absolutely nothing wrong in his dealings with the Town Council of Smoky Lake. Apparently, the Premier arrived at this conclusion following his own investigation, Mr. Speaker. But Albertans, and especially the citizens of Smoky Lake, remain in the dark as to the nature and the extent of the Premier's detective work, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Premier, can the Premier tell us what his investigation involved and who he spoke to in terms of that investigation?
Mr. Speaker, I intend to respond to the honourable member's question, but I wonder, Mr. Speaker, if, with your indulgence, I might say something that I wanted to say yesterday and missed the opportunity, because it's now had the leader of the opposition who has raised a question with me, and if you will allow me, I would like to express on behalf of our caucus our deep and sincere concern to the leader of the opposition, and through him to our good friend and colleague, the honourable member from Edmonton Strathcona, that our best wishes and our prayers are with him for his health in the future, and we would hope that perhaps through Hansard or through radio or through television that all members could show their concern and caring for the member from Edmonton Strathcona. Mr. Speaker, I had some variety of checks I wanted to make with the various people involving the honourable member. I carried those out. I won't go into detail with the leader of the opposition, except to say that I am convinced that he did nothing in conflict of interest.
Mr. Speaker, let me first of all say to the Premier that I will take back those wishes, and I appreciate that from the official opposition, and I will be meeting with the member for Edmonton Strathcona this afternoon and pass on those very kind remarks. Mr. Speaker, to come back to the matter of hand, the Premier said himself that this was a very serious situation. He said he had conducted an investigation. And surely, Mr. Speaker, an MLA's ethical standards are of prime importance to this legislature and to the people of Alberta, Mr. Speaker. At a public meeting on April the 5th, the member for Redwater Andrew identified himself as the developer of the property in question and supported locating a chicken processing factory there. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Premier is well aware that reporters often tape record interviews at events such as this to make sure that their own reporting is accurate. Now, I have a very specific question to the Premier. Did the Premier's own investigation even involve contacting the editor of the Smoky Lake Signal to see if he had such a record, and if not, why not?
Mr. Speaker, if there is additional information any members want to bring to my attention, they're perfectly free to do so.
Mr. Speaker, the point is the Premier said that nothing wrong was done. He said at the same time it was a serious matter. You can't have it both ways, Mr. Premier.
Here, here.
And my question then, and if the Premier is aware of this, councillors said they were lobbied, local residents and members of the meeting were at a public meeting where the member for Redwater, Andrew, said he was still trying to sell land for which now he says he didn't own it, Mr. Speaker. These people have information that is critical in assessing the so-called conflict of interest. And my question, very simply to the Premier, flowing from his lack of answers, isn't it true that the reason that the Premier didn't want to ask these people these questions is because he frankly doesn't want to know what happened?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, surely the honourable members of the legislature have some appreciation for fairness in matters such as this. Now, we've had in this House an allegation made by one member, completely unsubstantiated. He made that allegation. We then had, Mr. Speaker, this was based on rumors regarding a potential, I guess, chicken plant. We then had the member of this legislature, an elected member of this legislature, stand, and this is the highest court in our province, state his position to his colleagues, his peers. And then we had the Speaker who reviewed the matter, the Speaker say to us that he saw that there was no problem with a matter of privilege. We then also know that the member doesn't own the land, the chicken plant has never been built, and if I am to understand the Leader of the Opposition, with this kind of flimsy material, we're supposed to call a judicial inquiry and set in place all of the matters that judicial inquiries involve. I would think, Mr. Speaker, that members would surely care more deeply, if you want to talk about credibility, they would care more deeply about the reputation of individuals who are in this legislature rather than try in some offhand way sully those reputations.
My questions, the next set of questions, Mr. Speaker, will be back to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, I said this is a very serious matter. The Speaker said yesterday we cannot deal with it in the legislature, Mr. Speaker. He didn't say that it wasn't serious. He said it was a legal matter. I wish you'd listen to him. If we can't deal with it here, where can we deal with it, Mr. Speaker?
Right.
And I want to go on. When the member for Stony Plain first raised the matter of the apparent conflict of interest by the member for Redwater, Andrew, the Premier stood in this assembly and said that the allegation was very serious, Mr. Speaker. I'm admitting that. And he also said so serious that the member could lose his seat, Mr. Speaker. Later he said he was satisfied that the member had done nothing improper based on his own investigation. He didn't even check with anybody. A very sloppy investigation at the best of it, Mr. Speaker. Then my question now flowing from that to the Premier, can the Premier tell us then what guidelines he was thinking of when he said the member had done nothing improper, Mr. Speaker?
Well, Mr. Speaker, obviously I anticipated the honourable member's second set of questions because I've just dealt with it in the first set.
Oh,
Mr. Speaker,
get off. Get off.
people in Alberta want to know what it's going to take for this Premier to even be concerned about ethical standards in this sector.
Cover up.
Now, Mr. Speaker, the Premier says that these are serious allegations, and then Mr. Speaker, who ruled yesterday, he said precisely you couldn't rule on business dealings of MLAs outside the legislature, Mr. Speaker. Well, if it is serious, as the Premier says, and the Speaker can't rule, then the councillors and the citizens of Smoky Lake are out of luck. So as any hope for open and honest government, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here.
And is it not true? Is this not the ludicrous situation that we find ourselves in this legislature, Mr. Speaker, that an MLA could be sent to jail for influence peddling and still not break the conflict of interest guidelines in the legislature? Isn't that the situation?
Yep.
Well, Mr. Speaker, obviously the Leader of the Opposition seems to be dealing in some kind of a hypothetical situation. We are not. We have had in the House certain matters raised, which we have judged, and the Speaker has judged, and we have dealt with them. Now, I come back to what I said earlier. When a member of this legislature stands up and says to his colleagues in this legislature, his position, then I think, Mr. Speaker, someone better bring some additional information, or we are going to say that that member is somebody that we respect and will respect in the future. I think by far the greater sense of ethics should be that somebody would play games with a person's reputation without having any facts at all to back them up.
Oh, I'd worry about your member misleading the Assembly, Donnie.
Mr. Speaker, this Premier is the one that said it was serious.
That's right.
And now he's hiding behind the Speaker. I would quote what the Speaker said yesterday. He said, business activities of members outside this House are outside the scope and privilege and thus beyond the jurisdiction of the Speaker. He goes on to say the appropriate forum for such issue is either in the legal arena or the political arena. That's what he said, Mr. Premier.
That's right.
Now, the government doesn't have a code of ethics, Mr. Speaker. The government doesn't have a code of ethics. That leaves only the legal arena, Mr. Speaker. I know you're nervous over there. You should be, Mr. Speaker.
Right, you should be.
My question then, because we can't solve it here and the Premier's not willing to even investigate, why has he ruled out the judicial inquiry? Isn't it the fact that he's afraid that we might actually get to the bottom of this mess if we ruled it, Mr. Speaker?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we're right back full circle with his question about the judicial inquiry. Let's review the facts again. We had a completely unsubstantiated allegation here about a member. Then we had the member deal with the matter. Stand here and deal with the matter for all members of this legislature, the highest court in the province, Mr. Speaker. We then had the facts that the member no longer even owns the land, let alone personal gain. I mean, what kind of nonsense is this? Then, Mr. Speaker, we have a chicken plant that's never been built that they're referring to. Then we had the Speaker rule that there are no privilege involved. And then, if I understand the position of the NDP, and it's hard to follow, they want that set of flimsy information to somehow start something like a judicial inquiry. I come back, Mr. Speaker. If they had real concern for the legislature, real concern for ethics, they would not be in here sullying someone's reputation without any facts. Now, if they've got more facts, if they have more facts, Mr. Speaker, let them put them up.
Sounds like a bunch. The honourable member for West Loch Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Minister of Agriculture. For nearly a month now, Mr. Speaker, the two Tory ministers of agriculture in Ottawa and in Edmonton have each been insisting that they are the greatest benefactors of agriculture, with Ottawa sitting on $80 to $100 million and the honourable minister here sitting on at least an equivalent amount, but they're not prepared to shell it out, Mr. Speaker. Now, this fruitless argument between the two ministers goes on despite the fact that the ground is now ready for seeding in southern Alberta, will be shortly in this area. 25% of the farmers are threatened by foreclosure. Short-term operating loans from the banks are running at 15 to 20% interest. And the provincial government, to add insult to injury, has raised the price of gasoline another 2 cents a gallon. Now, in view of the urgency, Mr. Speaker, will the minister now notify Ottawa immediately, if not sooner, that Alberta will match the offer and we'll worry about working out the details later?
Mr. Speaker, the answer is no.
Mr. Speaker, it is awfully disappointing to hear that, because what we have is a petty-minded politics getting into will cripple one of our major industries here in Alberta. With that insult to farmers, would the minister look at this part and view the fact that the federal minister announced a couple of days ago that he is willing to let discussions go till later, that we will then take him up on that offer and go ahead with that?
Mr. Speaker, in going back to the honourable member's prelude, I'm not sure whereabouts he was describing the agricultural industry.
I have no evidence, as he's trying to indicate, that 25% of our agricultural sector is about to be foreclosed upon. I don't know where the honourable member is and has been, that he's not aware that we have an interest shielding program on farm operating loans, and our farmers are not paying 15%. I have shared with the House in detail the commitment that this government has made under the leadership of Premier Getty to agriculture as our #1 industry. I have had recent discussions with the Federal Minister of Agriculture, and I'm encouraging them to do what I think is appropriate, and that is for them to pay their money out directly to offset the problems that are being caused by federal policies. And I will continue to press my federal colleague on behalf of Alberta farmers.
Mr. Speaker, interest shielding is no good if you can't get the loan. Mr. Speaker, surely the minister met with the Unifarm president, or even an organization down my own hometown down in the Cypress area would tell him of the difficulties now experienced. But I'd like to shift this last question to the Premier, Mr. Speaker. Since the Premier has often said, sure, we can trust Ottawa, go ahead and sign Meech Lake. We will work out Senate reform later. Will he now tell the minister down at the end, go ahead and sign the agreement. We will work out the details later. We can trust Ottawa.
Mr. Speaker, we really do miss the honourable member from Edmonton Glengarry. But Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we've just had the Minister of Agriculture deal with the questions from the honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon. I can't see in any way to amplify on his answers anymore.
The honourable member for Calgary Fish Creek.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Public criticisms made by both the legal and judicial communities in Calgary regarding government delays in filling vacant judicial positions and the resulting backlog and actions awaiting trial have prompted a number of constituent concerns about what's happening in our courts, Mr. Speaker. Can the Attorney General indicate what steps he's planning to take to respond to these criticisms and concerns?
Mr. Speaker, the concerns indicated by the honourable member for Calgary Fish Creek have been in the forefront for some time. There are, or have been alleged to have been 3 judicial vacancies in Calgary. Really, it's only 2. One of them is a supernumerary position which the chief judge can fill automatically from the other supernumerary people serving. The other 2 have been under consideration. I am attempting to fill one of the positions in Calgary as well as a vacant position in Edmonton with a female member of the bar, and there has been a recent judicial council approval process that had a substantial number of female applicants before it. I have now got the list of approval. I'm waiting for the return of the chief judge from a judicial conference down in New Zealand. When he is back, and I've had the opportunity to review the applicants with him, the appointments will be made.
Well, that's helpful information, Mr. Speaker. I'm wondering, can the Attorney General assure the Assembly that he might be prepared to evaluate and perhaps improve the judicial appointment process so that these kinds of delays can be avoided in the future?
Mr. Speaker, I might outline the process for appointing judges. People who have meet the requirements of being at the bar for 10 years can express their interest in serving in the judiciary. It could be in family law, criminal law, small claims. The application can come to the Attorney General's office or directly to the Judicial Council. The Judicial Council is comprised of the 3 chief judges or justices of the Court of Appeal, Queen's Bench, and Provincial Court, together with the President of the Law Society, the President of the Canadian Bar, and 2 public members. They vet the applicants. And from that list of applications or approved candidates, a selection is made. In some instances, we do have adequate notice from the bench that a retirement is coming forward, and we work then as quickly as possible to fill that vacancy. Sometimes the vacancy comes too quickly to allow that. In Calgary's instance, the longest term vacancy is latter part of November until now. There has been another recent one in February, and this delay should not cause the bench or the Bar of Calgary too much concern. As I mentioned, it's under advisement, but in any undue delay to cases or to scheduling, we would bring judges in from other areas if there was a reason that it was going to be undue delay. The vacancy does not allow or has not caused for undue delay of any cases in Calgary. We are one of the preeminent provinces across Canada in the sense that we have approximately a 3-month delay from the time a charge is levied until the case comes to court. Anything beyond that is usually through arrangements of the council, and we hope to keep that record as good as it is.
The honourable member for Edmonton Jasper Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are some 210 known distinct organic chloride compounds. One of these, 2378 TCCD dioxin, was declared by the United States Environmental Protection Agency a probable human carcinogen in January of this year. In March, the federal government of Canada officially declared dioxin as toxic to humans. There's no sensible government in the world, Mr. Speaker, which is right now prepared to license new sources of dioxins and furans in the environment. But then there's Alberta, which has licensed Diashawa to construct a bleachcraft pulp mill which would pump 5,000 tons of organic chlorides annually into the Peace River. In view of the need to reduce dioxin and other organic chloride emissions to zero as quickly as possible, will the Minister of the Environment agree to an ALPAC-style review of Diashawa to determine what options may be available to reduce and, I hope, eliminate what is now known to be the most toxic man-made substance ever tested on laboratory animals?
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what the question was. That might be a lot simpler, and maybe the honourable member can understand it. He can't understand anything else, obviously. Certainly 2378 TCDD has been identified as a very toxic dioxin. I mean, there is no secret. But there's a lot of work to be done with respect to chlorinated organics. And that is precisely why, Mr. Speaker, we have commissioned one of the most reputable firms in the world to undertake a study of this whole issue of chlorinated organics. And hopefully when the findings are produced, we will have good information and a true understanding of what these dioxins and furans are really all about.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if Yakupuri can't understate the problem, nobody can. The owners of the Alberta Pacific pulp mill may be self-interested, but they're not stupid. They see the handwriting on the wall. That's why they've abandoned their original proposal, which would dump some 35...
No preface to a supplemental. A short one.
...of organic chlorides into the river every year. They're now working on something new, and we're hoping the minister will allow Albertans into it. But here's the question. I want you to pay close attention now. If Alberta Pacific is not prepared to put more money into that old proposal, why is this government prepared to spend $400,000 taxpayers' dollars studying that old proposal that they've shelved?
Well, first of all, we want to be up to date, and we want to maintain our leading edge. in terms of having solid information, not the claptrap that the opposition provides us with from time to time. Good information, solid information, scientific information. Now, Mr. Speaker, since the opposition will never have the pleasure of experiencing governing this province, I'll explain to them how it works. Okay, now you listen. The chronology is really quite simple. On April 11th, Alberta Pacific formally submitted a revised proposal to Alberta Environment. It was on a long plan. I was on a long planned holiday with my family prior to my leaving on that holiday. I instructed my officials to forward the proposal for a scientific evaluation. And that's exactly what they did. And the Environmental Center at Vegreville received it on April 16th. You should also know that the federal government has also received a copy of the proposal, and they are doing exactly what the Alberta government is doing, and that is undertaking a scientific review of the documentation. And once both our scientific reviews are complete, perhaps in 10 to 12 days, we will meet to determine our next course of action. Now, I've explained it. Mr. Speaker, but obviously the socialists don't understand it. But as we all know, socialism won't work, except in heaven where they don't need it, or in hell where they already have it.
The honourable member for Calgary, Buffalo, followed by Banff Cochrane.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Health, Mr. Speaker, it's a scandal that children as young as 18 can very easily buy tobacco products in this province and move on to a life of addiction, usually a shortened life. And it's particularly scandalous that the provincial government has almost totally ignored the health implications of what is the greatest preventable cause of ill health and death in this country. Now we have the Heinemann report telling the government that it should deal as a priority with preventive health issues such as smoking. I'm wondering whether the minister can tell this House when the government is going to get off its collective duff and make it illegal to sell tobacco to children under 18, to provide for stiff penalties, and to resolve to enforce these laws.
Mr. Speaker, with respect to the sale of tobacco products to minors, my understanding is that the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs may well wish to supplement. However, with respect to the issue of trying to reduce the tobacco products used by young people in the province, I think we can look to a number of preventive strategies that Alberta has entered into in concert with the federal government under the National Program to Reduce Tobacco Use in Canada. First of those was the Teen Smoking Cessation Program, which is obviously directed to a particular teen group. Secondly, the Class of 2000, which is the attempt with collaborative efforts amongst the private agencies, the province and the federal government, to ensure that the graduating class of the year 2000 is smoke-free. The third collaborative effort is with respect to non-smoking policies that link into daycare licensing. The fourth is smoke-free workplaces. In addition, I think it's important to look at the amount of work that has been done within the preventive framework of Alberta Health, including work by some of the health units, including the Calgary Board of Health, with respect to working with the Access Network of Alberta in producing videos like Smoking Against Your Will and Clouds in the Coffee Room, all of which move towards the preventive nature that we can encourage young people not to take up this very addictive and ultimately lethal practice. There are other efforts that we can and are making, Mr. Speaker, but I appreciate the honourable member raising the question and in order that we can get some of these initiatives on the public record.
Well, the fact is that the government is doing almost nothing meaningful, and they speak of smoke-free workplaces, and they refuse to even enact legislation providing for that right in this province. And I'm wondering what's wrong with this government that it refuses to deal with smoking by minors, refuses to take any meaningful action with respect to the right of employees to clean smoke-free workplaces, instead merely talks up a storm of smoke itself.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think, in fact, there's probably a bit of a philosophical difference between the honourable member and I with respect to this issue, and our government with respect to this issue. We have, for example, for the first time in Alberta's legislative history, a smoke-free legislative assembly, to the credit of all the members.
By this government.
To the credit. But those are the kinds of initiatives that I think have to come from people saying we're no longer going to tolerate this. I am not one, and nor is this government one, that believes that all of those initiatives can come from the top down. However, if we want to look at what departments have done within the provincial government, we can do that. Perhaps the honourable member would like to put the question on the order paper. But to say that nothing is being done, or that private workplaces aren't as concerned about smoke in their environment as this legislature is simply not the case.
That's right.
The honourable member for Banff Cochrane.
Mr. Speaker, this past Sunday, April the 22nd, thousands of Albertans and indeed millions of Canadians recognized and took part in Earth Day 1990. I had submitted a motion to the chamber, which unfortunately was not debated prior to the 22nd, asking our government to recognize Alberta Earth Day 1990 in recognition of this very important international campaign which began some 20 years ago in the United States. I'm sure that the Honourable Minister of the Environment participated personally in Earth Day this past Sunday, but my question is to the Minister. What is the Minister and the Department prepared to do to promote and in fact support this worthy cause of recognition of the importance of environmental concerns in this year and in years to come?
Let's take for half hour. Go 20.
What can I say? Well, Mr. Speaker, it was really a sight to behold. Literally tens of thousands of people in Calgary and Edmonton and throughout the rest of the province came together to express their concern about the environment and in our future. And it was refreshing to see that a lot of people came together in a friendly spirit, and not in the kind of emotionalism and confrontation that we've experienced from time to time as we deal with this issue of the environment. People came together and they discussed in reasonable tones the issues of the environment and their future. And I think that what we should do is perhaps examine how this government can participate in Earth Day if it is to become an annual event, understanding that we already have an Environment Week where the province of Alberta attempts to bring a focus on the environment throughout Alberta. But nonetheless, we will look at government participation in Earth Day in future years, Mr. Speaker.
Supplemental question, Mr. Speaker. I would ask the Minister if he would be prepared to allocate monies from his department and indicate that commitment today to work towards being sure that this Earth Day is recognized more fully in Alberta in the future.
Well, the allocation of funds is something that certainly we will have to consider, but Earth Day is more, Mr. Speaker, than just a matter of dollars. It's people coming together at the grassroots to really become involved in this issue of the environment. I know that I had the opportunity of attending 3 schools, participating with industry, participating with teachers, and participating with the Earth Day participants on Sunday. And basically, it's a grassroots kind of movement that ought not to be so dependent on government that it becomes a fully government-sponsored endeavor. I think that what we saw over the weekend was a beautiful thing to behold, and perhaps it should stay that way.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Highlands.
thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to pursue a series of questions that were initiated this year and last year by my colleague, the member for Edmonton Strathcona, and they pertain to the Gingras affair, or one might say the Gingras mess. Now, the federal government was pulled kicking and screaming last year into finally conducting an investigation into the release of Daniel Gingras on that famous birthday pass. The investigation having a look at whether or not the prison officials were right in making the decision that they did and the process that they observed. The report was none too flattering, as you know, Mr. Speaker, and the Alberta government didn't exactly hurry up to have a look and see if criminal charges should be laid in the matter. I understand today that the Attorney General has said that there will be no criminal charges laid. And I'd like to ask the Minister this, the Attorney General, given that he's said that it's too difficult to use the evidence that he's got to make such charges stick, is he now prepared to hand over that evidence under a confidential arrangement, if necessary, to the lawyers of the victims' families so that they can pursue a civil cause of action should they so choose?
Mr. Speaker, indeed, the release of Mr. Gingras was a tragedy not only in the administration of the penal system, but a tragedy in the loss of 2 lives. We undertook an extensive and sometimes difficult investigation of all of the evidence, and we were blessed in this particular instance of having all the evidence together, because Mr. Weir did do quite a thorough investigation, and although we had some difficulty obtaining all of the information from the Federal Department of Canada Corrections, we did get it. We took our time in analyzing it. We used 2 of our separate offices of our Special Prosecutions Branch to ensure that we had an effective investigation. There are no grounds for bringing criminal actions against any of the employees or people involved in the tragedy. We all know that the inmate has been found guilty in this particular instance of 2 cases of murder. This evidence was obtained on an undertaking from the Canada Corrections that we would use it for our jurisdiction, which is criminal only in this matter. On that basis, I can't comply with the wishes of the Honourable Member for Edmonton Highlands. I would like to. The second reason is the evidence has been returned to the Canada Corrections. Although I can assure the member and the member for Edmonton Strathcona that the families of the victims can, if they initiate a civil suit, obtain this information in 2 ways, either by subpoenaing Mr. Weir and obtaining the information from him directly, or through the legal process, obtain the information on a demand for particulars from the Solicitor General's Department. And so either of those, they can obtain them. Regretfully, I don't have them, and with the undertaking would not be able to produce them.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Attorney General polishes his halo, but I recall when I asked the Attorney General to ask the RCMP to look into criminal negligence, he said that it was a joke, that the idea was a joke. Now he's telling the families to go and spend more money to ask the feds to do what he could do on their behalf. If the minister is so sincere about his concern over the tragedy and his concern about the negligence of the prison officials, why won't he get the information, get the feds to approve him giving the information to the families?
Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate we have to use an instance like this to try and use political rhetoric.
Yeah,
exactly. Just to refresh the memory of the member, when she asked for a criminal investigation, I didn't say it was ridiculous. I said the charge that she was alleging was ridiculous. And it's proved out to be that. It is not the jurisdiction or duty to for the Attorney General to be in civil matters as this. We again, it's no halo polishing. I'm sure everyone in this assembly and everyone in Alberta has compassion for the families of the victims. And I would suggest that the lawyers, and unfortunately the member for Edmonton Strathcona is not with us, we wouldn't have to have this second question. He'd understand that the lawyers for the families can get this information. I would love to get it for them. I'm sorry that it's just not within my jurisdiction.
The honourable member for Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this week the Canadian public has finally seen the disappointing results of the federal government's task force survey on women in the public service entitled Beneath the Veneer. Now that report, Mr. Speaker, shows that 75% of women in the federal public service are concentrated in 4 lower echelon categories. Almost half are in clerical positions. Clearly, this comprehensive study points to the fact that the federal government has not taken the lead to set an example in providing opportunities and advancement for women in the public sector. It begs the question, Mr. Speaker, then, is Alberta doing any better? Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Premier. Has the Alberta government an inventory of the number of female positions in public service with respect to monitoring those positions and promotions over the last few years? And if so, will the Premier make it public?
Mr. Speaker, I know the honourable member perhaps unintentionally asked 2 questions. I didn't want her to use up her total supply, but I will ask the honourable minister responsible for the status of women to augment my comments. I don't think, Mr. Speaker, that the report on the federal system was very satisfying at all. It was very disappointing. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, during the time I have been Premier, we have been working very hard to try and have a greater and greater availability of senior management positions available to women. I'm very proud of the fact that during that time we have appointed 2 deputy ministers who are women. I would like to see more. The system is not perfect, and we're working to improve it all the time. My colleague, the minister responsible for the status of women, does have considerable statistics that may be helpful to the member from Edmonton, my good friend, the member from Edmonton Gold Bar. But I'll ask her to add to my answer if she has any additional information.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me underline what the Premier has said. He has been leading the way in this issue in Alberta, and as long as he has been Premier, we have been making great gains. So it is a story of success here in Alberta, although we're not where we want to get yet, and I think that's something that we all accept. We're still continuing to work towards it. But I could mention a number of programs and initiatives that we have taken in the public service that we think that will, over time, lead to a success rate. One, of course, is the Administrative Support Class Series Review, which we did last year and we will continue. And we targeted on that group because it is the cluster at the low end of the wage scale, and we have, in fact, adjusted them all upwards and also given them a clearer career path up to the top. We've also undertaken, and we will be in a position to announce, a mentoring program later this spring, and that program will be designed to help women who have a desire to proceed to management and higher management through the public service, and we would be, again, facilitating that progress. One statistic that we might find interesting, we have the statistics on the number of competitions and the number of women as a percentage of total applications on those management jobs. We find that for management positions, 1 out of 5 applicants are women, and their success rate, the number of those who are being hired, is over 1 out of 4. So in fact, the women who are applying
are indeed succeeding at a greater rate than the numbers of their applications would lead us to expect.
Give us more.
Mr. Speaker, may I remind the minister that the federal government thought their programs were working too until they did the study. Mr. Speaker, I think it would be helpful if the minister would make public, and I'll ask if the minister will make public, not only a catalog of the initiatives that are being taken, but of what means this government has of evaluating the methods, the measurements, and the results of the effects of these initiatives, so that the public will know as we go along that in fact the programs are producing something other than talk.
I would be pleased to share with the honourable member opposite a copy of Update Alberta Plan for Action for Women, which I have indeed issued, and could give all members of the Assembly one. It's dated April 1990, and it does give some indication of the progress we are making with our plan for action.
The honourable member for Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Vegreville constituency has the highest percentage of residents over the age of 65 of any constituency in the province. And there is an urgent need for expansion to the existing auxiliary hospital and nursing home in the town of Vegreville. To respond to that need, Mr. Speaker, the board and people out there have come up with a proposal in conjunction with government departments to build a 40-bed addition, a much-needed 40-bed addition that's been on the drawing board for probably some 13 years now. They learned when the Treasurer tabled his budget that the project wasn't going to go ahead this year, and I'd like to ask the Minister of Health when this government is going to demonstrate that they understand and care about the needs of the pioneers of the Vegreville community by agreeing to build that facility and build it soon.
Good idea.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the representation made by the honourable member, but I think within the whole issue of capital construction in health, it's important to put it into the context that I think we should take the time of the question period to do it. First of all, as was indicated in the budget address on March the 22nd, there are 55 brand new requests for new capital projects on the books with the Department of Health, none of which will go ahead in this year. And that's not restricted to the Department of Health. That applies to other areas of public works as well.
The time for question period has expired. Is there unanimous consent to complete this series of questions? Opposed? Carried. The honourable member for Vegreville.
Mr. Speaker, the minister has to recognize that there's 67 people on a waiting list for this facility. The need is urgent. And if she wants to talk about dollars and cents, she has to recognize that to keep patients in an active care setting that require auxiliary care is costing the province money. So if she wants to demonstrate that this government is prepared to respond to the needs of these citizens and save money in the long run, will she at least agree to provide funding to carry this important project through the final drawing ready for tender stage?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I didn't finish my first answer. I was simply rising to give you, so I'm going to finish it. At any rate, there were 55 new projects which were not allowed to go ahead, and of course that was not restricted to the Department of Health. Other public works projects, new projects, were put on a stop or a hold as well. In addition, 19 capital projects will go ahead that were underway, including the St. Joseph's General Hospital in Vegreville. It's one of the ones that will continue in the construction phase. But for the remaining 50 projects, Mr. Speaker, we divided them into three categories. And the three categories were to be met within our overall expenditure plan as well as the overall assessment of health needs in the province. 6 of the projects were in the design stage and they'll proceed to the point of construction. 9 projects are currently in the planning stage and they will proceed to the point of going to tender. The remaining 35 projects previously approved will complete their current phase of planning and will be held there in this fiscal year. And the Vegreville project is one of those 35. But I want to emphasize to all members of the House that these projects are still commitments of this government. The issue is simply one of timing and assessing when and how those projects can proceed within the fiscal plan. When I spoke to trustees of this province in November, I indicated to them that in the face of tight fiscal dollars, that we were going to, as a government, maintain our highest priority on the operating side. I believe the decision is sound, and I think the fact that the projects are continuing on, albeit at a shorter rate than perhaps some would wish, is an important statement of the priority that exists. I think it's also important to recognize that the Vegreville community is clearly one of those that has some considerable pressure with respect to long-term care, and I want to assure Albertans living in that community that we will proceed with that project as soon as the fiscal resources are able to be let go in that sense.
Would there be unanimous consent on the part of the Assembly to revert to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried. The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Utilities.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the members of this Assembly 16 students, 1 teacher and 4 parents from the Deadwood Junior High School in the Peace River constituency. And I would ask teacher Mary Ann Thomas, parents Eileen Stone, Joan Wood, Eula Ashworth, Rose DeLate, and the 16 students to rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Orders of the day.
Written questions.